This is the Squier Paranormal Cabronita Baritone Telecaster. That is a really long name for a really long guitar.
A long boy.
We shall call him Bari for short. So I bought this guitar new a few weeks ago, and you saw me unbox it if you're subscribed to this channel and saw the first video. If you've missed that video, go watch it right over here, something like that. And yeah, just look at my first impressions of the guitar and some sounds. So why did I get this instrument? And the answer is pretty simple. I just want to be Phoebe Bridgers, and I just want to play Motion Sickness. But for real, I just wanted to have more options for recording and playing live, to mess with some lower tunings without having to have really floppy strings, and this instrument's perfect for that. Well, Fender started to make some weird guitars quite a while ago in their Pawn Shop series in the early 2010s, and these were Mexican-made guitars that combined pickups and features from other Fender models of bygone years. 3 years ago, Fender came out with a similar series that they called the Parallel Universe series. And these had some pretty weird and interesting stuff as well. They're very cool. They sold really, really well. And so they wanted to get in on the cheaper guitars for folks like you and me who maybe aren't pro musicians. And, you know, maybe you're a college student like me and you don't have oodles of money sitting around. So, you know, Squier sounds like a great choice for you. So they didn't want to leave Squier out of this. So they made the Paranormal series, which is basically like the Parallel Universe, but in some ways the creations are a little bit more simple, a little bit more down to earth, like putting Jazzmaster pickups on a Tele with an F-hole, like reissuing the Squier Cyclone, making a Squier version of the Tornado, you know, the Jazz Tele, or offset Telecaster as Fender calls it, that type of thing. So in 2020, the first run of the Paranormal series guitars, they did introduce the Baritone Cabronita Telecaster, or Cabronita Baritone Telecaster, however you want to say it, whatever this dang guitar is. They did introduce it in black with cream pickguard, pickup covers, and switch tip. And it was black, and it looked super tuxedo. It was very, very cool. And I'm kind of bummed I didn't buy one from the first run, not gonna lie, because that finish option is dope. Now, the Paranormal series, or the way the Parallel Universe worked, is they made one guitar a month. And they had 12 different models, and so it would be a pretty limited run. And the Paranormal series is kind of similar, so you don't get all of the guitars accessible at once. They sort of appear, and you can buy them for a very short period of time. So they're very limited, a very, very limited run. And yeah, so the whole series was so popular that Squier brought it back with new finishes for 2021 to make more of these beautifully weird guitars. And this new run saw this particular model, which is identical aside from the finish. So the finish is now sunburst instead of just black. You can also get it in surf green, which is really cool as well. The world never seems to have enough affordable baritones. There's the Dan Electro ones, which retail for sometimes right at $500, sometimes $550 or up, that type of thing. Gretsch makes some which are reasonably affordable and very well made now, but that's only a more recent development. And Fender has kind of flirted with it. They made the blacktop baritone Telecaster a few years ago. They made the Squier Vintage Modified Jazzmaster baritone, which the resale value on those things is astronomical. And because they only seem to make them in limited runs, there's never enough baritones for people, and so the used prices on these instruments is absolutely insane. The Squier Vintage Modified Jazzmaster is selling. People are buying them, or at least listing them, for 5 times the original price. They retailed for $300 when they came out, and I was seeing Reverb listings with prices of $1,500. So that's insane. People really go nuts for Fender and Squier baritones. Okay, so what is this instrument? Let's look at some of the specifications first, and then we'll get into what I think of it. So this guitar is a Telecaster body made of alder. It has a maple neck with a slab Indian laurel fretboard. It has a scale length of 27 inches, and it has 22 frets on that fretboard. It has vintage Cluzon style tuners, a hardtail strap bridge with string through the body stringing. It features 2 Fender-designed P90 pickups specifically designed for this baritone model. That's pretty cool. It features a volume and a 3-way switch, and unlike previous Cabronita Teles, it does feature a tone knob, which I think is useful. The jack is located on the side of the guitar in a Tele jack cup, and more on that later because, let's be honest, this is the worst part of the guitar. It's terrible. It also has a polyurethane gloss finish on all the wood surfaces aside from the fretboard face. The knobs are flat-top chrome Tele knobs, and it is tuned B to B. It has a synthetic bone nut and a truss rod that adjusts at the headstock, thankfully. I really like this guitar a lot. And if you've seen any other reviews, mine's probably not going to add a whole lot to those reviews, but I do want to explain my thoughts here. So if you've seen the other reviews, you'll also know that the input cup is just not great. And let me show it to you right now. Get my face out of here so you can see it. It looks fine from this angle. And if you look at it from this angle, it sticks up quite a bit. It works fine if you have a straight jack plug or cable plug, but if you have a 90-degree one, it goes in enough to transmit signal, but not enough to stay in securely. So even if you wrap over the strap button and put it in, it could work itself out if you're moving around or something like that. So it really sucks, and I'm gonna change it out. That's gonna be the first thing. It's just, it doesn't fit into the body well. It's sticking out a ton, and the cup is just too deep. They didn't pound down the flanges or drill out the hole in the wood big enough for the cup to fit well. It's easily the biggest flaw in this guitar, which is a good thing, actually, I think, because just because you can't plug a 90-degree jack in, you change out the tele cup or have someone just beat on it a little bit, and then, you know, you're good. So there are really no finish flaws. The finish looks really great. There is one blemish, the 15th fret, where some of the lacquer chipped off. So there's a little finish chip at the 15th fret, but the fretwork feels excellent. No fret sprout, no sharp edges. They feel rolled. They feel comfortable. It's, you know, the finish is great. There's no bubbles. There's no Mars. There's no weird stuff going on. The nut is fine. It's a synthetic bone nut, so it's not real bone. So your strings could get stuck a little bit more easily, but on the other hand, it's easier to file down and doesn't smell weird when you have to do that. I love these Cluson style tuners. I mean, the gears could be better quality inside, but I don't really care. They work fine enough for this. The body wood is nice. There are 4 pieces of wood. You have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So very small. Like, this one piece is so big that it covers from here to here. And so that's a good thing, that most of the load, all the load bearing structure is on one piece of wood. So that's actually a really cool thing, and not many electric guitars have that. So actually, you could make the argument a 3-piece guitar body is better, because all of the load and the vibration is being the vibration is being transferred to the wings, but it's not as important as, say, that centerpiece. The maple neck looks really good, I think, and it feels great in the hand. I think it feels a little big for some reason. I don't know what it is about it. The shoulders kind of feel chunky. I thought it had a wider nut width than a normal guitar, but it doesn't. I guess it doesn't like fill out the hand, but the shoulders are it rolls off more slowly. So I don't really know how to describe it, but I guess it's like, instead of like a perfect C, instead of like a C, it's more like a flattened C. So it's a little more U-shaped than I'm used to on a Fender. They say it's C, but it definitely doesn't feel like my Jazzmaster or my Tele or my Strat. It feels a little bit chunkier in the hand. And I have medium-sized hands, so if you have really small hands, I would try this guitar out in the store and see if you can manage it. If I'm trying to do the thumb over the neck thing, I find I've gotten more comfortable with it, but I do find that it is less comfortable than on my other instruments. But if you don't play thumb over the top, it's perfectly fine and you won't notice anything. The electronic components are cheap and with very cheap wires, so I would definitely upgrade the electronic components and the wiring inside of the control cavity if you plan on doing any gigging or touring regularly. This will just help the guitar be a lot more reliable, and you'll thank yourself later when you do that. So this guitar does have mini potentiometers. They are 500 kiloohms, which is the right choice for P90s. That's great. They work fine, but they seem a little cheap. So let's go to the rating section of the review. Okay, it's time for the rating portion of this review. Please note that some of this stuff is subjective, but I'm assigning numerical values to some of these subjective terms so that you can kind of see how it ranks versus other guitars that I review. Electronics, for me, get a 4 out of 10. They aren't great, the components are cheap, and they won't last a long time. The switch feels kind of mushy, and it will generate dust in the control cavity. Basically, instead of using a different means to lock it into the neck or the bridge positions, it uses a plastic thing, like two plastic like bendy things, and then the shaft like squeezes in between them. And that's just going to make a ton of dust, which will gum up the pots and the switch. So it's just going to get worse and worse over time. And it doesn't feel very positive. It feels really cheap. See, the pots are mini pots, which again, they're not horrible. They have a decent taper, but they're not great. I'm going to replace them. The output jack electronically is adequate, and the pickups seem decently well made. They do have interesting covers, though. They have like this kind of bevel going on them, which might make it a little bit weird to replace. Normal ones just have a smooth, P90s just have a smooth bevel over. These ones have like a flat edge, one bevel, and then a bigger radius bevel, which is kind of strange. For playability, I think this guitar gets a 7 out of 10. The action can get decently low, but when you're playing with the bigger strings, it just takes some getting used to, you know? The G string is wound, so that's definitely different, and it definitely doesn't feel as normal to bend as a unwound G string would. And the short scaling for a baritone, 27 is pretty short for a baritone. I haven't really seen much shorter than that. It makes chords and notes really easy to reach, like this direction, and it doesn't take that much getting used to, but you know, coming from a guitar. But that means that the action has to be higher, or the strings have to be thicker to raise the tension to prevent from buzzing because of the short scale length. So I kind of wish the scale length was at least an inch longer to 28 inches, and this would allow for lower tunings without way thicker strings or a much higher action. Looks, overall, I think this guitar gets a 6 out of 10, maybe 6.5. I'd push it up to 6.5. I think the cream appointments, so the pick guard, the pickup covers, and the switch tip are a really nice touch. I think it's a lot better than just doing stark, like bright white. There's no nasty vintage tint on the neck. Sorry if you like the vintage tint. I just like it. It's just more natural. You get to see the wood, and then in case you get a ding, you don't see this patch of like really light colored wood underneath that like orangey tint. The sunburst is a classy finish option, and I like that. It goes well in a lot of scenarios. You're not gonna like show up at, you know, like for example, if you were in a country band and you whip this thing out, no one's gonna be like, oh, get that nasty guitar out of here. Or, you know, you show up in a rock band, you know, no one's gonna like boo you out or whatever. Maybe it's not the most metal looking guitar, but you could always get the surf green one, I guess. This guitar's not really aimed at metal guys since it has the P90s. Fit and finish. I give this guitar a 6 to 7 out of 10. I think there's only one finish flaw on the neck, like I showed you earlier. The fitment of the output jack cup is embarrassingly bad, and the finish underneath is just, it looks hacked. It does not look very good. So I do not like that aspect of it. Although from far away, and unless you take it off, it does look fine. So I guess overall the fit and finish can be high. Sound. I think this guitar sounds great. I would give it a 7 out of 10. The P90s sound really good. The neck isn't too muddy, which probably would be a concern with normal P90s. So the neck is nice and clear. There's clarity. There's also warmth. The middle position is very sparkly, and I love it for cleans or crunches. So there's a nice amount of chime, and it's not too harsh. The bridge pickup has a lot of mids, but it does have some good top end clarity and a nice, you know, controlled low end. If you're used to more like vintage sounding single coils, like the Fender Pure Vintage 65 Jazzmaster pickups, you might find the sound of this bridge pickup to be a little bit too mid-humped. If you're used to more modern sounding pickups, or you know, if you primarily play with like PAFs or hotter pickups, then you might not mind these at all. You might think they sound absolutely wonderful. So do each their own. I think they sound good, but I personally wouldn't mind them sounding a little bit less, with a little bit less mids in the bridge. It's a little growly for my taste. After working on another video, I discovered that my cable, my glorious $70 coily cable from a brand that will remain undisclosed in this video, was doing some major treble suckage. and I was not loving the pickups in the Baritone. So I'm here to rectify that and say that I actually think they're quite nice, and they have lots of top end. Are they darker than other single coil guitars? Yes, but not in a unusable way. They actually have quite a bit of good chime and sparkle, and they're not aggressively dark and high output. So Fender, good job on the pickups. I don't think I will be changing them. I will be changing the wiring harness, the output jack, and yeah, that's all I'm changing. Okay, moving on. Next category, value. I know this is the most affordable baritone electric guitar on the market right now from a major manufacturer. It's cheaper than the Dan Electro ones. It's cheaper than the Gretsch ones. And that's a good thing. So $429.99 US dollars, so $430 basically. It's really a great instrument for the price. The used value is insane on these things. I saw a black one from last year going for $600 on Reverb. So you can expect a very healthy resale value in a year or so, especially because these guitars are going to be kind of rare. So I would say buy it now, actually. I wouldn't say wait till the price comes down, because it's never going to go down. You will never see prices lower on these guitars than right now, unless Squier decides they're just going to keep making them to eternity. But even then, I wouldn't expect the resale value to dip a whole lot. So overall, I think I'd give this guitar an 8.5 to 9 out of 10. There are some flaws for sure, but luckily they are electronics and fit and finish quibbles that are easy to fix or just ignore. So for example, if you never play with a 90-degree cable, just forget about it. You don't need to worry about that. If you never, your guitar probably won't have this finish bubble issue, so you probably don't need to worry about that. I don't notice it because I normally play down here, or in here on the baritone. I'm not playing stuff super high up the neck. Baritones are pretty hard to find at this price point, and this one is well made considering it's only $430. It plays and sounds good, doesn't look offensive or ugly, it looks classy and nice, and I can't really ask more from an instrument for this price point. So, what's next? I currently have some parts ready to be put in. I have some Modrotone pots, full-size ones. I'm going to drill out these holes to the 3/8 size and then put those pots in. I got a new all-parts switch that's been kicking around, so I'm going to throw that in here. I have an electro socket jack cup replacement. It's much better. It lets me plug in a 90-degree plug. No issues there. And I'm also going to change out a lot of the crappy wire with good wire. One praise for this guitar, though, is the fitment of this back panel. Look how good this fits on here. It's like tight gaps. There's no gaps at all. It just fits so smooth, so snugly in there. Really, really good. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate you guys sticking around, even while I'm busy with stuff. Please let me know what you think of this Squier Paranormal Cabronita Baritone Telecaster down in the comments below. I really love it. I hope you do too. Go out and buy one if you want. Yeah, I'll be documenting the process of upgrading this guitar, so I'll make a video of me upgrading it next. And so when I change out the pickups, when I change out the electronics, when I sand the finish off the neck, I'll let you know about that. If you like what you've seen in this video and you want to see more videos like this, please go over to my channel, hit the subscribe button before you go, and check out some of the other videos there, and then that way you'll see the new ones when they come. Thanks for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, just being here. I really appreciate all of the views, any support, and positive, and any criticism as well. So, I'm done. Time to charge the camera, empty the SD card, all of that good stuff. So, bye.